Welcome to the Dad Show podcast. How y'all doing?
Welcome to the Dad Show podcast, a show all about impacting, empowering, inspiring, and uplifting information to become a better dad, husband, man, and mentor. And now your host, Ryan Ladd.
Welcome back to the Dad Show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank y'all for being here, for visiting, for watching. I've got Mr. Jamie Elmore back in the studio with us. He was on episode 4. So today's kind of going to go from that episode forward through his life. If you want to catch out the past history with Jamie, go to episode 4 of the Dad Show, and you can listen to all that. Jamie's been traveling over the holidays. This is right after Christmas, the day after Christmas that we're in the studio, and he's been traveling a lot from Maine, correct? Yep. Is where he currently resides. We went to school together. We worked together. We've been friends for quite a while, and basically, you know, think of you as a brother, man. So
appreciate that.
You're more than just a friend. You're family.
Appreciate that.
And so every time Jamie comes in, we try to hook up, and we've been trying to do a podcast for a while.
Yep. And
we were able to finally fit it in our schedules and get rest and get everything else going. And so Jamie, I just man, can't thank you enough for being here, for doing this, for joining, and man, I'm excited about our conversation today.
Yeah, it's something I was really looking forward to coming down. I know last time you were just getting it going, and
yep.
I think just passing through. I had like 20 minutes to spare, so I get it, man. It finally actually linked up. So
yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
Me too, man. Me too. So let's just get it started, man. Let's like I said, if people want to know about your past, we can go to episode 4 and hear all that stuff. But let's shoot forward now. So so in the past episode, we talked about your wife and your marriage and your kids, and you were in Tennessee at that time, and you were moving to Maine, but man, there's been a lot going on since then. So let's hear a little bit of
Lord,
it.
you made a line. So when we last talked, I think we were actually packing the house.
That's right. Yep.
I was in a t-shirt on the podcast because I already packed most of my stuff. So I was nervous anyway. The progression of getting there to where we are now, it's just been crazy.
Yeah.
We lived in I guess started out, the house we rented didn't work out going up. So we got 3 kids, 2 cats, a dog, and we're in a hotel room for 2 weeks.
And a partridge in a pear tree, right?
Oh yeah. And my wife has a trip to Salem planned. And so we're, digging out clothes from the U-Haul. Then we have to unload this U-Haul because they need their truck.
Oh, wow.
It's 2 weeks, this madness. And so then luckily we score a fishing shack.
Sweet.
It was the nicest old man. But we lived there for 7 months while we were waiting on a house, just getting set up. My wife, she got a great job up there. So things were falling in place, but it gave us a run for our money. She, if I wasn't really pushing her, she's like, we don't have to close on the house. So we were selling our home here, that big Victorian. And, I'd say that was hard too.
Selling the house was hard, or just getting letting it go, or the process? Letting it go. Yeah. Because you've done a ton of work on that house. Man.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But letting that go to make this vision come about, it was a hard sacrifice.
Yeah.
So she's like, we can just tell our friends, hey, pretend this didn't happen. We can go back. And I was like, no, babe, let's stick it out.
Yeah.
And we did. We got our house.
Because it's what you both wanted to do.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't like one of you wanted to do it and the other one really didn't. Like you both had this dream, right. You both had this vision, and it was what you both wanted. Yeah.
And, I think if it came easier, it might not mean as much now.
Yeah.
So going through that time, it was,
dude, that's a powerful statement, by the way, what you just made. Yeah.
I'm just dropping bombs here, man.
Yeah. That's all you do.
But it's true though. Because we really fought hard for it, and when we moved in, it literally rained down our staircase one night. This is, you got to think of the time, right when COVID's starting to get super heavy.
Yep.
Is when we decided to move across the country, do all this stuff. So we probably literally got the last good home that you could get, but we still had to gut it.
Yeah.
So here we go again. But now, no friends around, coast to Maine, we're 5 minutes from the ocean at the house that we picked. And she had looked at it before when we were at home. So it's perfect location, right where we like, right where she fell in love with years ago in that area. I mean, we essentially live in Mayberry.
Wow.
And so we stuck it out. We gutted almost every room, not necessarily to the studs every room, but just massive renovation, new roof, redo all the floors upstairs. And of course they put carpet and particle board and of course,
had to tear all that out.
Oh, it was awful.
So let's hit on that real quick. So you moved across the country in the height of COVID.
Yeah.
The rental that you had fell through. You've got this house. It's raining down your stairwell. You and your wife are in this mental battle of, should we go back to Tennessee? Should we stay here? And now you've got this home and you're fully renovating it. And the statement is that if you and your wife can stay together through building a house or renovating a whole house, then you can stay together through anything. So where I'm getting at is man, how much did that build up your marriage through that whole thing, and how did you all navigate to not just give up and let it go and keep your marriage going and stay strong? I mean, obviously you're being a dad at this time too. You've got to be parents and just a lot to juggle, man. I just want to do a quick little hit on how much stronger it made your marriage.
It made it a lot stronger. It gave it more depth.
Yeah.
I'll say that, here, things weren't easy here. We worked hard. We put in the hours. We checked the boxes. We did what we had to do, but this is a massive trial.
Yes.
And we didn't have anybody else. We had no friends there. So, luckily my wife has, she's got pretty good coworkers and, so she's got some friends now, but at the time we didn't. So it made us stronger in that we kind of leaned on each other more. We never really fight during renovations. That's one thing we don't really fight about.
That's awesome.
I'm kind of under she's like, well, I want it this color and that. I'm like, all right, fine. So I just go with it. She lets me build stuff sometimes. So
sometimes.
Yeah. She's like, well, we could just buy something. I'm like, no, we could fix this and build it. And
exactly.
So she throws me one of those every now and then. But for the most part, we never really argued during renovation. It's more like we're going to argue over dinner or something.
I got you. Yeah.
Than renovations. So we save the arguments for the food and the important stuff.
The important stuff. Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's awesome, man, that you all have that, your marriage and stuff to be able to navigate through hard times like that, man. And in our last podcast, you were talking about reading some books and doing some stuff to make your marriage stronger and better. And just, man, it looks like it paid off because y'all were able to, and it, yes, it did pay off. Y'all were able to navigate these hard times and get there, but man, how God was building you all up prior to and building you closer and growing you closer and growing you stronger through everything because he knew what would lie ahead. It wasn't like, I'm just going to put you in these waters and see if y'all can sink or swim. He was building your marriage stronger for this to be able to navigate through this. And there's a little bit more that we're going to get into about being able to navigate in hard times and stuff of that nature. Yeah. But, I just want to point that out that I remember in our prior conversations of, you all growing your marriage closer together here before you made this trek. Right. And obviously it paid off.
Yeah. I still, at the time, we weren't falling apart.
Yeah.
When I decided to really try to invest in that. And so I guess you're right. It was a buildup for it. And then, for us to deal with the struggles that we've had in the past year,
Yeah.
which we will get into. To get through those hard times together and to still lean on each other. And, it's like that marriage is 50-50 or 100-100. And
I think it's 100-100. Yeah.
Yeah. But you also find out sometimes it's 80-20, 70-30. And it's recognizing those times during the hard times, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, do you need a break? What do you need? It's where we kind of take care of each other and get through those hard times. Yeah.
I'll tell you, one of the things I struggle with is, like I'm building furniture, or I'm building my kids a play set, or building anything, trying to better our family, even if it's for my kids, is I get caught up in doing the renovation or the building. And, I'm telling my kids, they're right there beside me like, hey, Dad, can you do this? I'm like, no, I need to get this done. And, so that time that I'm building it for them, I'm also taking time away from them. So how did you navigate that while you were doing this?
I feel like you called me out. You're right. As men, we get in that mindset, like, got to get it done, move on to the next thing. Cause our lists are so long.
Yeah.
And then we of course we don't help because, if our women weren't around, we'd just be, a friend of mine said, if women weren't around, we'd just be running around beating things with sticks. He's like, look at sports. That's what we do. We're men, we're simple. It's, I want to build this for you and it's for you. And she's like, well, hey, can we have dinner? It's like, no, I'm doing this thing for you.
Yeah.
And, you're right. Those are things I probably didn't handle well at times because, I'm in the middle of this massive project and like, hey, can we do this? Or, Kate's like, Daddy, can we go get ice cream? You're working a lot. And I'm like, I don't have time. And, so I've started to kind of hone in on those things. Wife has called me out a few times on those things. Kate pulling at the heartstrings a little. So I think they've kind of showed me that. Nobody's really called me out on it hardcore.
But it just
until just now.
Sorry about that.
But it's okay. No, it's fine.
I'll just put the knife in, twist it a little bit.
Fine.
I'm sorry. It's so hard though. Like, you're trying to be a dad, you've got a full-time position, you're trying to do extra jobs, you're juggling all the things and you're doing them for the right reasons.
Right.
But it's taken away from the reason.
Right.
And that's, I struggle with that so many times. And I can't remember what I was doing the other day at the house. And, one of my kids come and asked me, hey, can we do this? And I think I was doing the dishes, if I'm not mistaken. And I just like literally had that moment. I was like, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this to the side and I'm going to go spend, because that's all they want. They want 10, 15 minutes, just of me time.
Right.
Or not me time, but, just that connection of my dad and me time, or my mom and me time. And, usually their attention span goes on to something else after that, and they want to do something else. But man, that 10 to 15 minutes means the absolute world to them.
It does. And the impact of the no is probably more profound. They might not remember that 15 minutes a year from now, but they might remember a hard no.
Yeah.
In a time where they were just like, well, why didn't he want to hang out with me?
Yeah. It was only dishes. They didn't need to get done.
Yeah. And, they don't understand the storms that are in our minds. And that's something I've tried to really think about is, they don't know that I have to do this to pay for this and to do this so they can have dinner time, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They don't know that. It's not their job to know that.
Exactly.
And I think an area my wife got me thinking about that is she said, I want our kids to be kids. Because we were talking about, it's like, well, when I was 16, I did all this, and it's like you're forced into maturation too early.
Yeah.
It's like, let them be dopey kids.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, I can rock with that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're trying to do is, let them just be kids and kind of get in those moments where they do need us and try to be there.
That's been our prayer ever since our kids have been going through their disease and been in the hospital and surgeries and everything else that comes along with that, is that our kids can be kids. They can just play. They can laugh. They can have no care in the world. They can, just do what they need to do as kids. And, God's provided that. Our kids are doing pretty well, and they can, for the most part, we got to go through some stuff throughout the year, but for the most part, God's answered that prayer, man. And that hits right at home with what you just said. Let them navigate their own life and what particular part they are in time, what age group they are. They don't need to be worrying about jobs. They don't need, stuff that just they see on social media, or they're like, oh my gosh, I need to be thinking about this. No, by allowing them to do that makes them mature at their own pace rather than us, like you said, pushing it on them and making them think that they're older than what they need to be. Yeah. And, helps, I think, make them stronger to grow better relationships throughout their life and figure out who they are rather than trying to please mom and dad, or rather than trying to please the world.
Absolutely. Young men are, and here's something I've learned about parenting young men. You'll see on the internet the hardcores of both sides. And there seems to be an absence of that practicality in the middle. One of my sons is aggressive and by no means mean. He's a force. When he walks in a room, he has a presence to him. He stands up straight, shoulders back. Yeah. Of course, he's 6'3".
Wow.
And my other one, he kind of walks and tries to stay under the radar. And that's what just kind of allowing them to I guess mature into themselves.
Yeah. Do you think the other one maybe does that because the other one is so bold and just walks in?
No, they've just this is the way they've developed.
Okay,
they're introvert, extrovert.
I got you.
We all have our thing. But with each of them, I've kind of allowed them to just mature at their own pace because as young men, they don't really know when it's time to be a man.
Yeah.
And this was a nerdy conversation I had with somebody. I've been heavily studying the last few years for some of my professional roles. So this was just part of it, some psychology classes. But one thing we were really looking at is the development processes of young men and how, parenting and social influences affect them. And what we really saw was that just forcing them too early into adulthood isn't good because they don't know when they are to transition.
Yeah.
So we were talking about these ancient ceremonies where they would wear this, and I think it was Russell Brand that was talking about this on a podcast. But I thought it was interesting. They wear this androgynous clothing and they make a big deal out of the young men becoming men.
Yeah.
And in modern society, we don't have something like that. So I think as fathers, what I've learned is just I guide them along the way. I don't jump on them anymore. Like we talk about choices, and they really love that. Let me tell you, they're like, can't you just scold me? And so I'm kind of more of the Andy Griffith parent now.
I got you. Yeah.
It's like, son, just sit on down here. Let's have a talk.
Yeah. Man, that's so hard. How do you, cause you want to let your anger take precedence and, no, don't do that. Or, how do you navigate that?
Cause it's not my burden.
Okay.
I think as fathers, we try to absorb it and we try to think, how can I correct this?
Yep.
And, it's not our job because it goes back to, God has no grandchildren. I guess it kind of rolls that whole theology into it. It's not necessarily our role to correct them on everything.
Yeah.
We have wisdom because we've lived a while. We've done a bunch of stuff, so we can guide them, I think. And I just talked to him about choices. It's like, well, here's the choice you made. You kind of knew what was going to happen. And he tries to be slick sometimes. He's learned now. Says, hey, can I do this? I'm like, did you ask your mama? The same thing was like, you can do that, but let's talk about the choices you're going to make.
Yeah.
So sometimes he picks right, sometimes not. But he knows what he's getting into.
Well, I know that I learned only from mistakes. I never learned from somebody guiding me or telling me, hey, don't touch that hot plate. It'll burn your hand. I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to touch the hot plate and burn my hand. So I had to learn from mistakes.
Oh, me too.
Some people can learn from just telling. No, not me.
I don't think as men we take advice very well anyway because we're just hard-headed. It's like, all right, I'll listen a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's not true. I tend to listen. people quite a bit.
As I've gotten older,
Yeah.
I've started to listen a little bit more, but being younger, I would not.
Right. Yeah. I think the last year or two is where I've started to really listen to other men. And, I think part of this little brotherhood that we all have, with our closest friends, just really, it's like you trust these people for a reason.
Exactly.
You've kept them around. It's like, what little tidbits can I take from this person? And it's like, okay, maybe he's right.
Yeah, that's true. That's
every now and then I'm right. It's not often.
Not often, but
not often. I'm the misfit friend.
According to my wife, I'm never right. So
I'm not. It's okay.
But that's awesome, man, that you're, not scolding them or, you're letting them navigate. You're trying to pass your wisdom along through helping them make good choices versus trying to yell it in or, at certain times beat it in, anything of that nature. So that's really awesome that you're handling in that direction. And obviously I sense that it's paid off, that it's helped. And,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it builds a good base relationship.
Yeah.
Because if I'm yelling at you all the time, you probably don't want to hang out with me and have dinner with me.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think it's helped in that regard quite a bit. It shouldn't be an adversarial relationship.
Yeah.
We're there to kind of just help you along the way.
And I from my standpoint, my son, like my daughter, I can tell her anything for the most part and she'll do it. She's a 10-year-old little girl. Like if I barely raise my voice I give her that look, like I can see that it's in her. But my son, on the other hand, he tests me like every single day and just wants to scratch that scab off and aggravate. And I've noticed that whenever I do raise my voice or, he doesn't accept it as well as I'm like, come here, son, let's have a talk. Let's have a discussion. And so I've tried to, take that same role of I'm mad at you because you've done bad. Yep. You made a bad decision, but let's talk it over rather than me sitting here screaming down your neck, telling you how bad of a decision you made. Let's discuss why it was a bad decision.
Yeah. It's hard to do sometimes.
Yes.
It's hard to do.
Yeah. Because I'm a fireball, man. Like, you flip my switch and, fire comes into my eyes and I'm like, no.
Yep.
And, but yeah, I've noticed it in my own household that whenever I do sit him down, like, son, that was a bad decision. You're going to have consequences. Either you're going to get spanking, you're going to get disciplined in some way.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and yell at you and tell you it was bad. Let's have a discussion of why it was bad.
Yep.
And that's helped a lot.
Yeah. I like to catch my sons in the truck. It's like, we'll just be going somewhere random. Like, hey, you remember that thing last week? Let's talk about it. They love that.
Because they can't go nowhere. I can't go to the bathroom. I can't run to my room. I can't go in here. Somebody distract me. We're in a truck and that's it.
They usually know it's coming too. Like he's been quiet for a day or two. It's coming.
You've renovated this house.
Yep.
And you've been in Maine for 4 years now.
I think 4 years. Yeah.
Almost 4 years. Wow. It's so crazy that it's been that long. And so how's life been in Maine, man? Have you been able to connect with a lot of people and make a lot of new friends and build your family there? And
yeah, we've got really integrated, kids are in the school system, obviously. We're in a very small town. I got a job. I've had quite a few jobs since I've been there. I did end up getting my construction business going.
Awesome.
Did that for a little while. So I accomplished that goal. Found out help is a little hard to get sometimes. Had to roll that back in a little, but that's okay. I've made not a lot of close friends. I've made a lot of acquaintances, a lot of professional relationships. Mm-hmm. I worked as an analyst for a while. I've expanded into a lot of different areas of nursing that I never really thought I would. So I've made a lot of relationships that way. My wife, she got a job that's like, she's way cooler than me up there. So right now I'm doing nursing. I'm working on some stuff in the background, but she'll come home some days and she's like, dealt with the FBI and stuff. She's a microbiologist at the CDC now.
Okay.
When we started up there, she got a job initially running their COVID lab, or working in the COVID lab that was subcontracted through the state. And they were doing tons of samples, and she ended up running that thing and saw that all the way through.
Wow.
And then she transitioned over to the CDC as a microbiologist.
I can't even spell microbiologist.
I know. She'll say stuff some days. I'm just like, yeah, babe, that sounds awesome.
I have no idea what you're Google that real quick.
What in the world?
Yeah.
She does all kinds of cool stuff. It's like, yeah, I did something with the FBI today. And like, she can't tell me some things. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah.
It's like a Mr. and Miss Smith, except I'm not Mr. Smith. I'm just the nerd that she tells us stuff to. She's like, yeah, I can't say. I'm like, all right. I'm respectful. I don't ask.
I understand.
It's fascinating. Like, she gets these random calls, and she's really enjoying herself up there. So definitely she's done really, really well. My career up there, I went to all different areas and had a lot of fun with that. And so, yeah, we've got pretty integrated. I mean, it's pretty much home. We put out the landscaping every year and battle the neighbor. I see when he mows his yard first. He typically does.
So you put your New Balance on, your cutoff jeans, and
you put on
my
my
white socks.
Yep. Put on my shorty shorts. Oh yeah. And I will tell you this, the grass grows so fast up there because it's mild temperatures. It rains a lot. You have to bag it.
Oh gosh.
God, we really are dads, aren't we? Yeah. This is where we go to.
All conversations lead back to mowing somehow.
Oh my gosh, it's so terrible. And if you let it go, you're spending another hour.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I had a lawn cutting business on the side, man. Yep. And some of the yards that, if you let them go more than 6 or 7 days,
that's awful.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And she's got so much landscaping in now. Of course, we can't just be regular. So
exactly.
In our house, we have these big hydrangeas in front of it and rose trellises, I think they're called. I don't know. I installed it.
That's exactly what they're.
We've done up the landscaping so nice. And so you got to go around all that. But she loves it.
That's awesome.
I'm just the dopey guy saying, what makes you happy today?
Exactly. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah. So that's what I try to do. I don't always accomplish that, but that's where my intentions are.
How have the kids transitioned, man? Have they?
Initially kind of slow, but it's when everybody was doing remote learning.
Yeah.
So they had some school, they had a lot of remote learning. Once we got to the house we bought, they started at one school was about 45 minutes away. Then we got into our actual schools we're going to be with.
Yeah.
They started doing really good. They met friends, sometimes the wrong friends, but we got through that. And now they're doing really great.
That's got to be a tough transition for them, like especially during the timing of it, because school is where you meet a lot of new friends and make new, you network and everything else. Yeah. And for them to have to be at home and going through the remote learning and all that, dude, I can't imagine what, hurdles they had to jump over.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were going stir crazy.
I would say so.
For sure. One of them, he homeschools, but Blake, he's like, I want to go back to school. He's just over it.
Did they want to move back at all? Did once you got there, they had to do it?
I think when summer came around, they were kind of missing that big in-ground pool.
Oh yeah.
And quite frankly, we were too. But it stays cold up there till July.
Oh wow.
Like June can be cold at times.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I was like, I would have opened my pool 2 months ago. So there was some of that.
Let's move back to Tennessee. Let's go swim.
Yeah, there was some of that, but overall they've not they've not verbalized to me anyway that they really, really want to come back.
I understand.
They miss things just like we do, but they've got good opportunities up there. So I think they like it.
That's awesome, man. That's good. So I kind of want to switch gears just a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm looking at my phone for those that are watching on YouTube, because Jamie made a post back on December 1st. And if you're okay with it, I'd like to just read it. It'll take just a second. But I think this is going to be a lot of the meat and potatoes of where our conversation's kind of going to go today.
Sure.
So your post says, I was sincere and honest last time, but it wasn't a real picture of it. You'd made a post and deleted it. And now you've made a new one. So I was sincere and honest last time, but it wasn't a real picture of it. I've struggled with alcohol. I've struggled with depression after my dad and my brother's death. The combo of depression and alcohol is a recipe for absolute destruction. Y'all see the happy and goofy front I've put on. Behind the scenes, I've been miserable mentally and tried to bandage it with alcohol. But demons swim, and not facing them only makes the problem get larger. I've taken a lot of steps in my mental health to get stronger. I've stopped alcohol 100%. My dad and brother died as addicts, and I refuse to follow in their footsteps. My wife has been there through all of this, and she's received at times the absolute worst of me. She's protected me and my reputation. She's followed me to hell and back. She's saved me from myself. If it were not for her, I wouldn't be here today. Her grace and dedication saved my life, literally. My gratitude for her is immeasurable. I'll say all this to say that we all have demons or problems. Had I reached out earlier or made an effort to address these things, it wouldn't have spiraled the way it did. Reach out, people. I don't care if we hardly know each other. I'll listen without judgment, and I'll keep it confidential. Her grace saved me. The least I can do is help someone else by listening. Thank you all for the comments last time. I read every one of them, and it helped me get past my depression and decision to kick alcohol 100%. It's almost been 2 weeks, and I haven't looked back because my love for her is stronger than any craving, and my love for myself is getting better finally. And that helps. That's all I've got for now. There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot.
Yep.
So let's touch on the first part of that, is that you've struggled with alcohol.
Okay.
How did you struggle? Obviously, I'm sure drinking a lot at times, but what did you mean by that statement?
Well, the struggle with it was, early on we drink and have fun with our friends, or, we find our social spot with it.
Yeah.
And then it can turn into just kind of a little sanctuary at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Let's just have a couple and go to bed, relax, watch a movie, whatever.
Yeah.
Cook dinner. Over time, if you continue that and don't stop, it kind of, you get a little bit more into it. And where I'd say I struggle with it, it's definitely true that addiction can run in families. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because anytime I would, deal with something, say, extremely stressful, I would just rely on that. And it makes it not stressful for a little bit.
Yeah. But then it comes back.
Yeah, it comes back, and it makes it worse because of the way that alcohol affects you. It really taps into that affective nervous system, and it makes things that aren't that bad sound even worse.
Yeah.
And you will convince yourself of that. So where I'd say I struggled was just that fact that, you can't, for me, I don't want to have any because you just go through all of them.
Yeah.
And you're chasing the dopamine, or chasing the dragon, as they'll call it in the, the drug world. But that's where I definitely say I struggled, physically anyway, with it. There's plenty of other ways you struggle when you're drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my physical.
That was my issue. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, it's fine. I would say that's the physical struggle of it, outside of the consequences, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest thing was, and I've got a lot to go with alcohol, but my biggest thing was I didn't see drinking as a sin. And I still don't to this day. If somebody's drinking alcohol when I walk into a restaurant or whatever, like that's you. I can't judge you. It's what I did when I drank. And so I was not a good husband. I would flirt. I would text. I would do things that a husband should not be doing with other women. And so when Kennedy got sick and was diagnosed with her disease, that's what I told God. I was like, God, I know you do not make deals. I'm not making a deal with you. Like, this is whenever I drink, this is something I do every time I drink. So this is the sin that I commit every single time, whether you heal Kennedy here on earth or you heal her in heaven with you, I'm never touching another drop of alcohol. And I think you've touched on it that, you feel better when you finally, for one, you see how strong you truly are when you can say no to something and overcome an addiction or something that you see is starting to take over you, whether that's alcohol or a phone or relationships or whatever the case may be. But number two, like, physically you feel better, without that being in your system. And those two things were huge for me, but something that's been the biggest and hardest hurdle to overcome is how many friendships and relationships, not relationships with women, but like relationships with friends and that people we normally hung out with have lost because I don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
That was, hey, Ryan, you want to go get a beer? And we would go wherever and get a drink. Like, those calls don't come in anymore. Those people don't come around at all anymore. And these were people that I considered my brothers. These were people that I would talk to on a daily basis and no longer in our lives at all. And so that's been the hardest and biggest hurdle. It's like, maybe I should start drinking again just so I've got friends.
Yeah. It could be lonely. Now, luckily, I didn't have a lot of friendships based in that.
Yeah.
So I was lucky there. I did drink with some friends, but they are respectful that, hey, I'm just going to choose not to. Like, okay, cool, whatever. Those are my lifelong friends. They get it.
I agree.
I don't mind for people drinking around me. But they're not going to offer me one.
Yeah.
Because they know.
Yeah.
And chances are if I went to grab one, they'd probably slap my hand. Because these are my brothers.
Exactly.
They'd be the one to protect me from myself.
Help you stay strong and cut you out.
Absolutely. Because it is hard to overcome. When people say, you don't love me more than alcohol or any addiction.
Yeah.
It's a hard statement to justify because you do love somebody more than it, but it's such a powerful force in your mind.
Yes.
I mean, you have to reprogram your brain.
Yeah.
No matter what led you there, you still have to get out of it.
Yeah.
I guess part of getting out of it's finding what did lead you there.
Yeah, exactly. Battle on those demons. Cause just like you just hit on, normally you're trying to cover up, you're trying to hide something, you're trying to forget something, and, going back to your past or whatever is bothering you, you're trying to get rid of is how you deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm assuming this is a great segue into exactly what you have been dealing with, which is your dad and your brother's death. Your dad passed away, last year? Is that correct?
Last year, on my wife's birthday.
Yeah. And, and then your brother passed away a few years ago, but obviously this has been bullying and this is, then I'm assuming your dad on top of it has just compounded everything. And
it definitely did. And, just the way it happened was the timing, the way it happened. It was hard to contend with, when somebody dies as an addict, things aren't exactly planned.
Yeah.
So I just really got rocking in my business and, I had to kind of shut it down. I had to come down here and, so I was angry for a while and, it's like, how could you do this to me? And, of course you're doing it to me, which of course he didn't. That's something I got over.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on that real quick. Like, you've got the anger of, like you did this to me, and then you said, no, you didn't. So how did you come to that realization?
That took a little time. When I told you a week or so ago, I said, hey, oh, by the way, I found God. And you're like, what? And it was like a surprising statement. So I'm not sure where that's going yet. But what helped me with it was that I don't have to hold on to this stuff.
Yeah.
Because as I've studied psychology and I've become more interested in divinity and what turns on the lights to consciousness, basically.
Yeah.
There has to be something to this. And what I realize is that it is that relationship with whatever divinity is. And you can hang things up there. You don't have to carry it.
Yeah.
So that anger, my dad, he loved me to death. It was slightly toxic, but it goes back to people's intentions and motives. I think, it's, I could misinterpret something. It's not my burden to carry.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be effective as a father, husband, whatever it is, I can't carry this stuff.
Yeah.
I carried it too long.
That's powerful.
And, when you drink alcohol, and where it's demonic is that it'll tell you that your problems are bigger and that you're not strong enough to overcome them.
Yeah.
And I'd actually wrote an essay on this, on how alcohol is directly from the devil himself. Because it will take your mind to those places. It will take you to the depths of hell.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that. So I think in learning, learning that, I don't need that, that I am stronger than all these feelings of things that could not even be real in the first place.
Yeah.
You got to let it go.
Yeah.
That's something my mom has told me, something right before my grandmother passed. This was last year. We had just got back from London. We were I think I talked to you, and then we flew to London like the next day or something.
I remember that. Yeah.
So the day before we come back, my grandmother passed away. And before we left, we didn't speak much because, she was sick. And so she just leaned down and kissed me on the forehead. She just said, God forgives. I was like, what? It's like, you never say anything to me.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I didn't think much of it. And just these compounding things kind of led me. And I know I kind of went off on a little side route there, but those are the things that kind of led me towards saying, I did find it.
Yeah.
And just all these relationships I've found. And it's also helped me with the alcohol too.
Yeah.
It's, just that collective understanding that, whatever God is, it is good.
Yeah.
Because in there you can find serenity and peace to just hang things up at the least.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really the base level of analysis of it, because I'm sure there's much more depths to it.
Yes, 100% there is. But when my kids went through what they were going through, that's the biggest thing that I did with God was, and I think I say this on every single podcast, so I'm sure people are tired of hearing it, but I got to tell this story because it's such a huge testimony to what I've been through. And I feel like if you will do it, it will truly help you as well. Meaning you and meaning the listeners as well. That I was I'd got saved at a young age and I was a Christian but I wasn't living my life for God. And so I met a guy at work that we become close to and close with. And, he had heard about Kennedy and what we was going through and all the above. And he said, Ryan, I was trying to walk in a new Christian faith. I'd got rebaptized and rededicated my life to the Lord and trying to walk a straight line. But I was like a brand new baby deer trying to walk. I was stumbling, I was falling, I was doing all the things. And he's seen that I was struggling. He's like, Ryan, I know you're trying to pray. I know you're trying to live your life for God. I know you're trying to do the right thing. He said, but there's going to come a day when you're not going to be able to say a prayer. You're not going to be able to think of a prayer, but just know that God understands your tears. And I was like, dude, you're so crazy. Like, no matter how hard I'm crying, I can always think of a prayer in the back of my head. And dude, it hit me one day at home. I was there by myself and all I could do, I was crying and weeping so hard that all I could do was hit my knees and throw my hands up to God. And, it was literally, as soon as my hands went up, it was literally like he reached down and he picked it up off of me and he took it. And I was able to stand up, go with my normal day, like just wipe my eyes and go. But in that moment when I stood up, and this kind of goes along with what you just said, was when I felt that weight lifted off of me and I stood back up, I took my hands like I was giving Kennedy to God and lifted them up. It's like, I can't carry this, but you can. You're the ultimate father. I'm just an earthly father. You can carry this and you can deal with this. I can't do this alone. And since then, man, it's exactly what you just said of hanging your burdens, hanging your heavy weights on him and letting him carry them for you so that you can be a husband, you can be a dad, you can be a good friend, you can be a good mentor, you can, all the things that men or people in society in general are called to be. By him carrying those for you makes it a whole lot. I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it makes it a whole lot easier to continue on with life, man. That's so powerful.
Yeah, it does. And I think a lot of people, when they're in their search for divinity, God, whatever you want to call it, I think that they think it's all inclusive, all at once, at the same exact time. And I feel like everybody finds things differently. Yeah, I found it through studying psychology. And let me tell you, I'm insufferable when I'm trying to figure something out. Because I will take it to every level of analysis and I will break down these stories. Like we were studying biblical stories and their psychological relevance to modern day. And I kept thinking and I remember I bugged the heck out of my buddy Tim Gibbs, his parents, Betty and Dave, bless their souls because they've had to put up with me. They're like my second parents. Yeah. But I would ask him these questions. I was like, okay, I've been studying this. What about this? And they're like, oh my gosh. And I say that to say that with Dave, Gibbs's dad, I went to see them when I was really struggling. Yeah. And this was back in April this year, back in, I believe, April. And I said, hey man, what advice would you give me? It's like, just what life advice? At this point, I've got nothing left. I'm falling apart. It's like, let's swing for the fences. What do you got? It took about an hour because Dave's kind of long-winded like me in the best way. Yeah. He really navigated his life. And this guy, he was a naval aviator. He's brilliant. He's so well researched. And what he came to for his conclusion out of this life story, he said that my grace is sufficient. So it's like, okay. And at the time I'm like, all right, doesn't mean much.
Yeah. How do I deal with it?
Yeah, but I recorded that conversation because I wanted to reference it later. I kept going back to that. And I think that that's what sort of led me to it, where I said, let's hang this stuff up. And it took a while. Yeah. So several months of battling and fighting it. But I think that's what really led me out of it, was just knowing that I have a relationship with something that allows me to be better. Yes. And if that's the base of it, I'm okay with that. Yeah. And I'm willing to explore that.
Which is a good foundation for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, that's what, no matter what, no matter who, no matter when, whatever takes place, he is always with you, at least from my standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, I always have. Told you I've lost tons of relationships through alcohol and everything else. No matter what, if I lost everything today, I still know that God is walking with me 100% all the time. And I can talk to him, I can speak to him and feel his presence through everything. And, like you touch back on the alcohol and demonic meaning of going, the thoughts and, that's the ultimate deceiver of the devil, is to get you at a weak state so that he can deceive you anymore of you're not good enough. You can't overcome this. There's no way, like, you need to just give up. And, you know, that's his goal, is to, if we're walking in, you know, straight consciousness, we're, you know, have no deviation of the mind whatsoever, then it's hard to get into our brains. And, you know, there's still those voices of telling you you're not good enough. You can't do it. I mean, I've heard, you know, so many voices in my head of, you can't do this podcast. Why are you even doing, there's no reason to do this. There's only a few people that listen to it. Yeah. There's no, you know, all these things, but no, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to go against that. And we're going to continue to have conversations like this because it's meant for somebody, even if it's just one person. Right. All of this is worth it. But if I'm at a, you know, toxic mind of either on drugs, alcohol, or some other substance, it's so much easier to get in my head. And this podcast probably wouldn't be going on at all, because I'd be like, all right, yep, you're right. 100%. I'm not good enough, and I'm cutting it off. There's no reason to put in this work and time.
Yeah. And I think that's something else that men deal with, is that we're never proud of ourselves for things that we accomplish.
Yeah.
And I fell into that. So, you know, just what you just said made me think of that. You know, I've done all this, and, you know, well, how do you feel about it at the end? And I was asked that by my wife at some point. She said, you know, what makes you proud, or something like that. I had accomplished all these things professionally. I'd redone the house. Like, we've done all these great things. I just never give myself credit for anything.
Yeah.
And even that, as men, I don't know if everybody does that. But for me, that was a struggle in that too. It's like, you're never good enough.
Yeah.
Of course, she didn't make me feel that way.
Yeah.
Like that was a me problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
oh man, hold on. I got to sing it. I got to say a quote that I just snapshotted the other day.
Oh, for sure.
Golly, this goes so perfectly with it.
Ah.
Here's the quote. You're so in your head where God is taking you that you can't even enjoy where he's brought you.
Absolutely.
And that goes exactly what you know, we're always in it as addictions or whatever else. We're chasing that next thing. Like,
absolutely.
You don't enjoy where you're at today.
Yeah, you don't. And, you know, if you really look at what led us to this, you know, we're, you know, not yet 40, healthy, close. We're close. We've got great things going for us. I think we did okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay that we pat ourselves on the back a little bit and say, you know what, you did good.
Yeah.
You survived. We brought new humans into the world. They're alive.
Yes.
Somehow.
They're fed, they're taken care
I
of.
know.
They have a roof over their head. Like, and that's so, golly, that's so powerful to just think of, to be in the moment. Like, and like you said, look at yourself and be like, no, I don't need to be worried about just what we said earlier with our kids, of letting them mature at their own rate, of be happy with where you are today and be proud of yourself with where you are today, rather than I've got to get to the next level. I've got to do this. I've got to continue here. Like, live in it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't enjoy it, what's the reason in putting the work in?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I almost feel like a hypocrite, because the last time on your podcast, I said that you should build a strong foundation for your marriage, so that way the roof doesn't fall off.
Yeah.
And that's somewhere where I have, you know, kind of faltered over the last year. And I think that alcohol significantly made that a bigger problem. Is, you know, we don't live in the moment. We don't look at our wives as, you know, say our best friends, or, you know, or we don't lean into them when we should. Or we try to be by ourselves, or we, you know, try to, you know, I guess just not be at our best.
Yeah.
You know, it breaks us down. It makes us, you know, much worse.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lesson I had to learn.
Yeah.
And because, you know, as good as you try to make your marriage, let me tell you, I darn near destroyed it with alcohol, and thank God I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I I realized that, what was the quote? I believe it was Tyson that said it. It was really good. And of course it comes from Tyson. So
It's got to be good.
They said, if you're favored by God, you're also favored by the devil.
Yes.
And
there's no truer statement than that.
That's,
man.
I'm telling you, man, I've learned that. It's ever since I tried to, I got it in my mind back in April. It's like, okay, I've dealt with depression long enough. It's time to do this. And it's like I just kept falling all over myself. And it's like, you have to be stronger than that force, though.
Yes.
So it's like, I'm trying. And, but yeah, that force will pull you, and you just got to keep trying, you know?
What do you feel like helped you? Do you feel like turning to God helped you pull that through completely?
I think that thought helped a little.
Yeah.
You know, another thing that helped was that, you know, my marriage is, you know, the best thing I have.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, dude, you're destroying this. Like, before anything else, you know, you don't want to be that person that your spouse can't rely on.
Yeah.
So that thought was kind of hard. It's like, okay, self-check, you know, and then being able to hang up those burdens, that definitely helped. That's kind of led me to where I'm at today, you know? So yeah, I think a mix really, and one helps the other. I think it's very much, connected, you know, I think.
One of the hardest things that I had to accept was when we were going through our kids' stuff was I felt like I had to be the rock 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so, dude, it's so bold and so huge that you confessed. And, you know, and it was hard for me as well. Like, there was a time I had to break down. Like, yes, I could call the other guys and, you know, just talk to them and break down to them. But there comes a moment when you have to do that with your spouse.
Yeah.
And like, I'm broken, babe. Like,
yeah.
And dude, it is so fascinating that when your wife truly loves you and truly values your marriage and she becomes your rock.
Yeah.
When that time of need, but it is so, selfless. It's so humiliating as a man to confess that, dude.
Yeah.
So I commend you. I'm proud of you for doing that because that takes a lot. It takes a lot to do.
Yeah. That was a big part of it. It's, you know, as men, we're prideful.
Yes.
Pride will get you in trouble. It will.
Yeah.
And you know, that was a hard lesson I had to learn too, because as good as at my job as I was very arrogant.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I was good, but I just walked around with this chip on my shoulder and nobody could stop me. And, you know, in hindsight, I probably could have done a little bit better if I had just let go of some of that pride. And in your marriage, you have to as well. You know, it's, you know, you try, if you're not 100%, you try to put on a front like you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, that extra weight every day, it'll break your legs eventually.
Eventually. Yeah.
And it does.
With that, you know, and then you even stated in here that you're putting on the front of being your goofy self.
Yeah.
You know, how hard was that to every day to carry these burdens and carry everything, but yet on the outside, you still wanted to be that fun, goofy. It
was difficult because, you know, you're on one front, you want to just say like, hey, I'm falling apart.
Yeah.
And then on the other, it's, you don't want to be a burden.
Well, that's, yeah.
And that was kind of my thought. So I don't want to be a burden to anybody. I can handle it. I've got it. I'm fine.
Yeah.
So to do that just over and over, especially, you know, I don't live here. So I'm just calling friends at home. Hey, how are you? I'm great.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm perfect up here. You know, so that putting on that kind of front, you know, it's not good, especially to your closest friends. And eventually I think they saw through it. And which is why I keep such a tight circle.
Yeah.
Because they do see through it.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, dude, you're not okay. What's going on? Like, they'll call my wife. She'll call them. So that's when I get a phone call from Shillings or something.
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
And I feel like, thinking back on this whole conversation, we was in DC at the time at another conference. We were heading on a cruise. And I think you messaged my wife. I don't think you messaged me.
Yeah, I happened to stumble across her, yeah.
And I think, now thinking back, that was probably a small call for help on your standpoint.
Yeah.
That I should have you and the message was, hey, I've got this feeling Ryan needs to talk. I feel like something's going on. Have him reach out to me.
Yeah.
And, thinking back on it now, that was probably a little bit of call for help on your standpoint. And you may have had the feeling, but yet you wanted to talk as well.
Yeah, it probably was. I remember that night clearly. And I think that probably was part of it. I tried a few times with some folks directly, what I thought was directly, but, and then finally one day I just had to say it out loud.
Yeah.
I was like, just buckle up, Shillings. Here it comes.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, that's a lot. And that's really what started this, whole thing to getting much better. It's just talking it out, realizing that our friends do care.
Yeah. What was the straw that broke the camel's back that you was like, hey, I'm going to let it out. I'm not going to put on this goofy front. I'm going to make this post, whatever the case may be. Like, what was the straw? I think
it was, I saw what I was doing to my family. I wasn't a strong leader. I wasn't doing all the things that I needed to do because I was just stuck in my own head of, check the boxes, go to work, let it stress you out.
Yeah.
Don't be in the moment. And those, if you work 6 days that week, fine. You have a Tuesday off with your wife, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I just saw the impact of that. And it's like, okay, it's time to really, really get this together 100%, not just the alcohol. It's whatever's bothering you, you hang it up, let it go. I think that's what it was. It just finally got to me where it's like, okay, we can do this a lot better. I think.
You think?
I think.
So what was some of the ways, for some of the women that may be listening to this, what was some of the ways that your wife helped you carry these burdens, that she was your rock, that she was strong for you, and some of the ways she supported you?
Well, we've always split housework, dinners, it goes on who's at home, who's getting home when, who does what when.
Yeah.
I think that she really picked up on the, I wasn't being as productive at home. I was working more, to just, my gosh, the way the economy, to just buy eggs.
Yes.
It's expensive now. Yeah. So she was really great in that regard. She'd pick up takeout. She'd do just whatever. And she knows that, what brings me comfort and peace is, just lay on my chest at night, things like that. Even when I'm running around the house and she knows, like, oh, he's just ADHDing over there. Let's go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm going to lay on you. You can scroll TikTok or whatever you want to do, but lay your butt down.
Yeah.
She knows that helps me. Even though at the time, like I want to, but you have stuff to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
You gotta be in the moment.
Yeah.
It's like these women try to teach us things. We're just too hard headed.
And we should listen. They're a lot smarter than we are, for sure.
So that's probably the biggest thing. She's, as much as it weighs on somebody to be married to somebody that is dealing with an addiction, she showed a lot of grace in that regard too. She'd get angry, of course. And, some of that probably helped too.
Yeah.
It's definitely helps. Sometimes in the moment, no, but I'm pretty self-reflective. So
yeah.
like, okay, I see what she was doing there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're partners for a reason. I think they were taken from our rib for a reason. They're a part of us and they know what bothers us.
Yes.
I think that's something they're in tune to that we aren't.
Well, when you get married and you have a mature and good relationship with your wife, you truly, and I know this sounds so cliche to say this, but you truly become one.
Well, you are.
And, if it's an ebb and flow, and if it's not ebbing when it should flow, like it's, there's a mix up of the chemistry and everything. And, as men, you realize it with your wives, and the wives vice versa. And that is so powerful that to be there and notice those things, and yes, correct it, be acceptive to the correction, and change it for the better of your all's relationship and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said that, when I was studying biblical stories, that, they didn't come from the rib for no reason.
Yeah.
It protects our heart.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff that we don't see as men, they bear that burden.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are one. And I truly believe that, because they see things storming in us before we know what's happening. They sense our energy. They know when our bag slams down just a little harder than it usually does.
Yep.
They're attuned to that.
Yes. And we huff and puff maybe a little more.
Yep. And I've just started listening. Okay. it's helped.
So what is some of the ways, because I know there's so many people out there that whether they may be dealing with a death, they may be dealing with an addiction, they may be dealing with some kind of depression, whatever the case caused it may be, like what's the biggest takeaways that you can possibly give advice to somebody that is, I know you're not over the hump. I know that you're not the tell all be all, but what is some of the ways, man? Because obviously some things have helped you overcome this. What is some of the main ways that you could give advice to somebody on how to overcome?
Physically, I would say you have to find some substitute initially. That's for sure. Whether it be energy drinks, chewing gum, something less destructive. Yeah, for sure.
Mine's energy drinks.
Yeah. That was kind of my thing. Just in those times where you're stressed and you want to go back to your substance, pop that energy drink, do something.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Every time it's hard.
Yes.
It really is. So that's one thing. The other thing is you have to have a goal. As men, that's what we're driven by. And I feel like that's what sustains us is, the journey to the next goal.
Yeah.
Because we're never satisfied.
No.
You have this great studio and you're probably thinking, oh, I could do this or I could do.
You read my mind.
I know your wheels are turning, and me the same thing. You have to know what you're going for. And what I was going for is what sustains me. It's, the relationship I have with my wife and my kids, the professional relationships that I maintain, being able to give my leadership training courses, but also be able to be a leader when I'm not doing those courses.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to teach leadership to young nurses when you yourself are not performing as an optimal leader.
Yeah.
So it's having a goal in mind and putting every foot forward you can to it. Even if it's a baby step.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing.
I agree.
And sometimes those baby steps are embarrassing how small they are.
But how much better you feel when you accomplish them. Like, yes, I agree 100% to make a goal, but also not just make the goal of, hey, I'm going to make $1 million. Like, let's start how we're going to make $100 first and how we're going to make 150. Then we'll move it to, start doubling that and make that plan out with that goal. Because if you don't hit those little milestones, like you just said, of those baby steps, you'll never get to your goal.
Absolutely.
And the fire of accomplishing the small goals to get to the ultimate goal will eventually end with you, conquering your ultimate goal.
Yeah, it will. And I think it leads us to be our best self, and if your best self is just a little bit better than being drunk on the couch, that's okay. You're doing fine, bud.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's really what I've learned. It's, I've enjoyed the last few years of studying hard and developing myself professionally and all the different career paths I've went down the last 3 years, it's been wild. And I could focus on those things again and, not have to worry about, what's stressing me out. But everybody's different though. Because some people, they don't have things going for them. And that, to that it's, you have to just have the most minuscule goal you can and work from there.
Yeah.
It's my overall generalized advice that helped me.
Yeah. One of the biggest things, it was in a podcast, and it was one of those aha moments that I had just the other day. Tristan, who was on with me, was talking about it was like the dad that walks into the bedroom of his kid every night, and he's got a device on his leg, and they're trying to get the leg straighter. So this device is helping mechanically do that and stretch it out. And so every night the dad's got to come in and tighten the screws a little more to make the leg a little straighter. And the kid's sitting there going, no, don't, not tonight, Daddy, not tonight. And, the dad's like, I've got to do it for the better of you, to reach our goal, to get to where you want to get to. And, the dad leaves the room and he's crying, but he's got to come in every night and do this. And, and then it hit me 100%. That's what I do with my kids all the time. No, babe, I'm sorry. We have to go through this surgery for the better of you. We have to go through this appointment for the better of you. We have to go through this therapy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're pushing through to get to the better of you. And it hit me, and I was like, that's God. I am pushing my kids through this. God is pushing us through our hard times. Yes, you're going through a hard time. Yes, you're battling this, you're battling that. But it's to make you stronger for the better of you coming up. And when that hit me, that every struggle that I've had, every bad day that I've had, every addiction that I've overcome, every sad, depressed moment, that is God behind me pushing, saying, no, this is for the better. I know it sucks. I know it hurts. I know it's hard. This is for the better of you and what's to come. I'm making you stronger for a reason. And when that hit me, oh, dude.
Yeah.
My life since then, and this was probably 2 weeks ago that we had, my life has been like every hard moment, every bad thing that's happened since then, I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you for that. I know you're making me stronger and you're pushing me through this for a reason.
Yeah. I think it's all tied together. Everything that happens to you. And I've had things over the last few years happen that I'm just like, why? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And it's led me to where I'm at today. And you have to go through that. And I think it's part of the maturation process.
Yeah.
It's, what they say, iron sharpens iron. So sometimes you got to go in the fire a little bit. It sucks at times, that's for sure.
It does, yeah.
But I think that's how we teach our sons discipline too.
Yeah,
is by going through those things, letting them watch.
and like that's the whole thing you were talking on earlier was, like how your kids were and how your boys were. And as crazy as it may seem, our kids want to be us. You were talking about the addiction through being hereditary and all that, growing up and you seeing that stuff. Yeah. Like I wanted to be like my older brother. I wanted to be like my dad, and so that's probably where the alcohol addiction came from was through those avenues. And that's what I had not had to do, but that's what I done whenever I hung out with my dad. That's what I done whenever I hung out with my brother as I got older. And, that's what I wanted to be like. And so, I do believe that 100% that a lot of people and a lot of kids develop those traits and stuff of that nature through those avenues of wanting to be like, and it may not be their dad. It may not be their brother. It may be somebody else that they look up to on the street that they're doing that. And that's who they value. And that's how they want to be. So, those traits are brought in and then just addiction comes from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it don't discriminate either. It's anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It can overcome at your most vulnerable state.
Yep.
And that's to me, that's like you said, it's so demonic, substances and alcohol, and truly coming from the devil, because I believe he sees you at that point in your life and he's like, I got him. I can deceive him right here.
Well, what better way to bring you to your knees than a big glass of bourbon?
Yeah.
Exactly. You'll go to your knees quick. And it doesn't play.
No.
It's straight from the devil itself, I'm telling you.
So you mentioned where you are today. So let's go through that. Like, where are you today? Like, where's your thought process? Where's your stability? All the above.
The stability is knowing that I have the strength to do whatever I want. And then understanding that I've done a pretty good job so far.
Yeah.
I've finally given myself that credibility. So when I say my mind is strong now, I feel like going through what I did and kind of sharpening my edges through that process, it's really made me stronger in that, if I can say no to something so tempting, I can say no to a lot of things that distract me.
Yeah.
And that's down to simple things, down to when you are doing the dishes and your kid wants something, a no comes from, that's a distraction. It's okay to be distracted in those moments.
Yeah.
It's not a distraction. I think that's kind of where it's taken my mind, to where it's the next process of maturing as adults. Men, we mature in strange ways. I think it's through, one, the counsel of other men. Two is just the natural process of it. Growing and learning and becoming a little more wise. And then letting go of the less juvenile things.
Yeah.
Because in order for you to grow, I think part of you has to die just a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's staying in those steps, not going back, because regressional, it's just going to mess things up. And especially I think going into our 40s, this is something I was thinking about over Christmas. We're at my wife's grandparents' house, and it's like out of a Hallmark movie. I'm telling you, man, it's ridiculous. They have this fireplace that he hand built. It's got this great woodwork, and he built this house himself, and Papa's sitting there by the fire, by the tree. It's out of a Hallmark movie. Yeah. And I was thinking, we're almost 40. It's like, what's next? What does 10 years look like?
Yeah.
Kids are in their 20s. What does it look like for us? So those are kind of more of the thoughts that I'm having now. It's like, how do I shape myself now to be the best possible thing I can be, to make sure those years are fantastic?
Yeah.
I think that's what develops, is your ability to see more forward. So, and I think coming out of something like what I've been dealing with, it's just been the greatest mind shift I could possibly have.
Yeah.
Letting go of the past and moving forward. I think that's what's going to give me direction for the next several years.
Relying on your wife more, relying on your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be more and I'm sure you were prior to, but I guess one of the things that comes to mind, you've let this out. You've been vulnerable. You've confessed that, hey, I can't handle this alone. Will that help you believe in the future? Hey, I can say these things. I can communicate with my wife or, somebody else and admit it and get through it, and obviously build your marriage stronger through it. The biggest takeaway I have for anybody listening is exactly what you've done. Is the number one way to get over anything that you're battling is just to simply let it out and admit it.
Yeah.
Like that's so sound like we just talked about. That's a small baby step.
Yeah.
But to do that takes so much to say that I am broken. I'm hurting. I'm struggling. And this is what it is.
Yeah. You have to give it a name. I think, because if you don't make it real, then it's just going to sit there.
Yeah.
And what are you going to, you're arrogant enough to think you can deal with it yourself?
You can't.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's if you don't hang it up, give it over. If you don't seek counsel in your friends or your family, it's one, what are we even doing here together in the first place?
Yeah.
You know, if we were to be autonomous, would be autonomous. We're not. You know, so relying on those relationships, you know, especially our wives, is what helps the most.
Yeah.
Because you can't figure these things out on your own.
No. And the navigating together, we've hit on it multiple times, of how much stronger.
Right.
How much stronger it'll make you and your marriage, your relationship is really invaluable to think about how much it does help.
Oh, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like you can't do it on your own.
No.
You know, I know some folks, you go through life without marriage, and that's fine. You know, but I think finding that person that not only balances you, but builds you up.
Yes.
Encourages you.
And that's so, golly, that's so powerful too, dude, to have a supportive spouse, no matter whether it's the man or the woman. If you support through everything,
right?
Like, I mean, you know, into building a business, into confessing that you're broken, into your financial standpoint, into anything that you may enter throughout your marriage, like to know that you have the support no matter what of your spouse. Now, if you're doing stupid things, that comes with stupid consequences.
Absolutely.
All right. So now that doesn't, offer up support, but if you're trying to do the good things, if you're trying to do all the above, like the support from your spouse, golly, is so powerful, man, to know that no matter what I'm going to do, they're going to be behind me 100% and pushing me and supporting me and cheering me on and there regardless of what the outcome may be.
Yeah. And as men, that's all it takes too, to drive us.
Yes.
If our wives just say, "Hey, good job."
Yeah.
We're like, "Oh, for real?"
Yeah.
That's what builds us up.
I agree 100%.
And that's all we need a lot of times. So that support is great.
And that's not only just from a spouse, man, from like a friend's standpoint, hearing that from another male figure is huge too. Man, I'm proud of you. You did a great job. Like,
thank you.
You're strong. Like, you overcame that. Like, all those little nuggets, man, build men up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Golly.
Yeah, it's been rough. So come out on the other side, though. Thank goodness.
Well, I'm proud of you, man, and what you've. I was seeing here if there was anything else I wanted to touch on from this post. I guess one of my main questions is: have you been able to continue not drinking, not touching alcohol?
I haven't at all. And really, it's the cravings. You have cravings at times.
I haven't had a drink in 9 years now.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I still, like, at times I'm like, man, I'd like to have a beer right now.
Yeah.
Man, I'd like to have, any, like, all that is still, and it's that continuous. It's just a rinse and repeat kind of deal. Like, to continue staying away from it. And I'm 9 years out now, and still.
Yeah, I've stayed away from it. And, the motivation to stay away from it is much better than the short-term gain that you'll get.
Yeah.
Because it's such a double-edged sword. And if I would tell my sons anything about drug use or alcohol or something, just avoid the alcohol altogether.
Yeah.
It's like, definitely don't be a drug addict. But alcohol, it's just not good.
Yes. And it's such a way of life now. Like, anything you the world is alcohol related.
Right.
And it's so built up. And dude, I'll tell you, and anybody listening as well, when you're trying to do this, when you're trying to fight an addiction, no matter what it is, the devil will put it on the hearts of the people that are closest to you to try and get you off track of where you're going. And it's a really close family member to me. I've looked up to him for so long. When I was bold and stated this, that, I'm not going to touch another drop of alcohol. And I was openly telling people this, this person that I was so close to, had looked up to all my life and everything, said, you've got a reason not to right now, but once this is all over, we'll see what the future holds. And this is a person that I looked up to. Okay. And I'm like, did you really just maybe you said it under your breath, but did you really just say that out loud to me? And, I had to put my mind in the mindset of, that's the devil trying to deceive me. That's not this person that I look up to and is so close to saying this to me. And man, so what I go with that whole story is that the devil will use the people closest to you that you look up to everything to try and get you off your track of doing good. So please stay strong, stay determined, don't get off track, and don't let those people,
absolutely
take you off of it.
I've got work to do. So yeah, I keep myself busy. So we got tons of plans when we get back, and I'm heading back tomorrow. So wife will be heading back in just a few days. So we've got plenty to keep me going forward, house projects, and just surviving the rest of the winter in Maine.
I don't understand it, man. We landed in Minnesota for Kennedy's back surgery in January of 22. We flew out of Knoxville. It was 70 degrees. We landed in Minneapolis, and it was -6 degrees when we landed. And I was like, who in their right mind wants to live in these kind of conditions? So
that's what you get the bean boots for.
Man, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to say or talk about, man?
I think so. I think we covered quite a bit. Maybe we'll save it for another couple years down the road.
Another update.
See what shenanigans we're both up to then. So
if any listeners want to come and connect with you or follow you, man, where can they find you?
Well, initially we had started a page. I really haven't done much with that. It ended up just not being something that I enjoyed doing. So I have Facebook. Sometimes I'm posting some, household pictures on there. All the pictures of our renovation are on there. So I can get you a link to that, or I guess link it somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
they
put
can see all our
screen.
projects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's really about it. I'm kind of isolated in my little world up there, and it's kind of nice.
Well, I was just also on the, obviously the building aspect of what you got going. But if somebody else is dealing with this addiction or depression,
absolutely,
and they want to reach out for help, man, I just wanted to offer that up to.
All right. Well, my phone number is 865-789-5543.
Wow. Okay.
There you go.
Awesome. That's the best way to reach out. Yeah.
You can call. I don't care.
Awesome.
I'll keep it confidential.
That's bold. Yeah.
I don't got to know you. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be bored. So you might want to hang up with me.
No, I promise you won't, man. Every time we've talked, every time we've got together, I've pulled so many nuggets and so much great wisdom out of everything that if somebody does reach out, then they're reaching out to a good resource. It's not just a waste of time. And
no, absolutely. I mean it, people, absolutely. They can call.
Because it is, honestly, it is easier to reach out to possibly somebody unknown.
Right.
And explain what's going on and confess it rather than to your spouse, your best friend, your parents.
If anything, it gives you practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying it out loud to me or to anybody neutral before you have to have the hard conversations, absolutely.
Yeah. And to get advice from somebody that's obviously gone through it, still going through it, still battling it all the time.
Absolutely.
You want to go to the experts. And so who better than somebody that's already been through it is going through it. So yeah, it's awesome. Thank you for for
Yeah,
offering
for
that
sure.
up. And man, I got to say it again. Thank you so much for being here, for being on the Dad Show and being vulnerable and giving good nuggets, man. I'm proud of you, and I just can't thank you enough for being here. And
it was great to come back, man. I enjoyed this. This has been awesome.
it has been.
Yeah.
So, folks, I want to thank you for being with us once again. And if you need to reach out to Jamie, he gave you his phone number. What easier way to contact him than that? And so reach out. I know he'd be more than happy to offer a helping hand. He's helped me so many times, and I know that he would do the same for you, even though he may not know you. So feel free to reach out and connect with him. And if you can't get a hold of him for whatever reason, reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with him. But as always, we want to thank you for being with us. We love you. We care about you, and we're proud of you. We hope you have a blessed day. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.